You're listening to Joe Laverty on ABC Radio Darwin and the ABC Listen app.
18 minutes past 7. It's a very happy retirement day to Qantas CEO Alan Joyce. He made the shock announcement that he was packing up his desk, washing out his favourite work mug and legging it 2 months early. And what a wonderful thing it must be to be able to retire at the age of 57 years old, even earlier than you first planned. Now, there is another very big retirement happening in just a few days. Dennis, he is the ABC technologist and has been here for a decade. Dennis started working in 1979. If we have a look back at all the things that have happened since then, Michael Jackson's Off the Wall was released. Malcolm Fraser was the Prime Minister. The film Alien came out. Prime Minister Doug Anthony signed a pact to allow uranium mining to begin at Ranger Uranium Mine in Kakadu. And obviously a lot has happened since then as well, especially in technology. So I'm not going to dwell too much on the differences between the retirement of Alan Joyce and your retirement, Dennis, but let's celebrate a long history of serving the public instead. First with the Bureau of Meteorology, then the RAF, and for the last decade with the National Broadcaster. Hello, Dennis.
Good morning, Joe. How are you?
And you're not even retired yet and you're already doing baking. You brought in what appears to be a lovely jam drop for me.
Yes, we're having a morning tea tomorrow. You're talking about morning teas. So I was doing a bit of baking before and I thought I'd just bring them in this morning, give you a taste test.
Oh, well, that's so nice that you're baking for your own morning tea. I wonder if that's what Alan Joyce is doing right now. So take me back to 1979. What was your first job?
I got an electrical apprenticeship in Kalgoorlie and my very first pay was $96 for the fortnight. So, yeah, a bit of the difference from what we get paid these days.
Was that a big deal?
It was back then, yes.
And what was your favourite job?
Yeah, good question. Probably air services when I was doing that. We spent a lot of time in the field, so I looked after navigational aids and communication equipment across the whole of the Northern Territory and the top of WA. So I got to do like the Gibb River 6 times in someone else's car and got paid to do it. So, yeah, spent a lot of time camping in a lot of beautiful places.
Have you always been really interested in technology?
Yeah, pretty well. Even going through high school, I was curious about how TVs worked, so I was pulling things apart and trying to put them back together, so yes.
Was your family cool with that? I mean, back when you were in high school, TVs were probably pretty rare and very expensive.
Yeah, they were. So, yeah, it was only old ones that I got to touch, but yeah.
And so when did you know this is the career for me?
Probably only a couple of years ago. No. It's all just happened. It's just fallen in the way. So, yeah, I started in Kalgoorlie. They had a pre-apprenticeship course, so you'd actually try a few different trades first, and then you use that as a bargaining tool to get a job where you classed that as your first year of your apprenticeship, so the bosses wouldn't have to send you to school for the first year. And you had some experience when you first started, so then you could choose which sort of role you wanted, whether you wanted mechanic or boiler making or electrician. I went for the electrician and I did that. And then when I started getting a bit bored in the job, wasn't there was some new technology coming on and the people at that stage weren't very comfortable with it. So I saw an opportunity to join the Defence Force. So I took that on and took the family with me and spent 15 years in the Air Force. And we did, when you first joined, I did 18 months sort of every day of the week doing radio school where you learn all about the electronics inside of things. And then
18 months every day it took you?
Yeah, yep. That was pretty
Was
intense.
that the new technology?
That was the start of the technology, yeah. So, and then from there I got into air traffic control radars and control systems and that. So, yeah.
Well, what's your job with this stuff? Interpreting the data, fixing it? What were you actually doing?
Fixing it. So, yeah, we just had to keep it running. So with air traffic control, you've got a lot of air safety things. So you have to do a lot of preventative maintenance, a lot of testing to make sure they fall within certain specs at test points and that sort of thing. And if they're not, then you've got to find out why. And just keep all the services running so that the air traffic has all the things available to them.
And was it with the RAF that you got thrown out of the plane 35 times?
No, that was before I joined the Air Force.
Okay.
It was just a hobby. Yeah, there was a friend that was into skydiving, and I went along one weekend, and so I was actually 54 jumps I've done, but I haven't done any for a long time now. But yes.
Yeah, you get a bit bored of it after 54, surely.
You get the taste of it, that's for sure.
You're hearing here from Dennis Clough, who is ABC technologist. He's been with the ABC for a decade, but started in technology in 1979. So you also worked for the Bureau of Meteorology. What was that like?
That was I was in a research wing of it, so we're working on a sort of experimental radar, a dual polarised weather radar that gives. It has two polarising beams that go out instead of the normal one, and from that you just got like 10 times the amount of data. So the scientists would enjoy all the data that was coming from that. So yeah.
And what about the role that you played with Defence ahead of the Timor conflict? Could you tell me a little bit about that, Dennis?
Yeah, so when Timor was all starting to go pear-shaped, you might say, and there was a lot of defence from all over the world was staging in Darwin to be deployed to East Timor, and a lot of them were on like a 20-minute notice to move, so they weren't able to leave their barracks, weren't leave the base or anything, and I think some of them were even having to sleep with their uniforms on because there was a short notice to move. So at the time I was running the cinema on the base, so we organised a whole heap of movies to keep everybody occupied and to try to take their mind off of what things might be coming forward. So, and I was lucky enough to get accommodation for the extra work we did there from the commander, so that was good.
Was there a favourite movie that you would play for everybody?
Oh, I can't remember the names of them now because that was a while back, yeah.
So you will have seen a lot change in technology from 1979 to where we are today, even just in broadcast media in the ABC. So what are some of the significant changes that you've seen?
The moving over to a lot of network-based things. So there's a lot of video over IP and audio over IP is coming. There's a lot of things that are happening in the background that people don't know so much about that is going to be interesting moving forward. So, yeah.
You see my eyes starting to glaze over when you're talking to me about what I'm complaining to you about with my computer when you come and help me upstairs, Dennis. I don't know what you mean. When you say the IP stuff, what are you talking about?
Yeah, so at the moment, or the older generation of gear, there was a lot of things were wired between devices, and so it wasn't very flexible in the way that you could change and pivot or do things a bit differently. But with the networks becoming more powerful and the technology is changing, you're able to put video streams, all your cameras, audio, all onto the network, and then you can just pull them off the network wherever you want. So you effectively can have a studio in Darwin and the directors and everything in a different state, and you're controlling everything from there.
So great, isn't it?
So yeah.
Yeah.
But with the technology, that was interesting when it was going, a bit of a side note, when we were growing up through high school, it was when calculators were being first brought into the system. And I do remember having to get a letter signed from the parents to use the calculator at school. And one of the big arguments was that you're never going to have a calculator in your pocket. And if you think now, what do we have in our pockets?
It's always, yes. Dennis. I've only got a few minutes until the news clicks in, and you of all people know that there is no stopping. You know precisely what's happening in a technological sense, what's happening when the news clicks in. So you're going to be retiring at the end of the week. How have you prepared for this moment?
So we had a seminar that the super funds had come around a few years ago now, and that there was something in there that clicked with me. Instead of chasing the dollar, they said, have a think and work out what you want to do for retirement. Because once you work out what you want to do for retirement, you can work out how much money you're going to need. And most importantly, am I doing enough now to get the money I need by the time I want to retire? So yeah, Alan Joyce is retiring at 57.
Yes.
I'm retiring at 59. And that's because I've been trying to put away a little bit extra all the time or since I've started the super fund. So I've always tried to put a little bit extra, and hence, you can get your dreams come true early.
Oh, that is such a good tip. Well, enjoy your last week with the ABC. There's still another couple of days yet. I'm looking forward to tasting your retirement biscuit. And on behalf of the ABC, thank you so much for all of the work you've done. When things work, it's because of Dennis and his team. So we've really valued you, Dennis. Thank you.
Yeah, there is a lot of people behind the scenes.
Yeah, Dennis Clow, ABC technologist, and many other things, retiring at the end of the week. This is ABC Radio Darwin. It is just about 7:30, and I'll take you to the newsroom. Hell or high water, that newsroom is coming, and Dennis makes sure of that every single day. And I have a song quiz for you. Here is 1 second